I'd like to call to order the August 28th meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission. Ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Snyder?
Here.
Mr. Meredith?
Here.
Ms. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Casali? Here. Mr. Turner?
Here.
Mr. Apone?
Here.
Mr. Lorray?
Here.
Chairman Moffett, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. First item is approve the agenda. I'm going to add one item under old business. There's a clarification on the Enclave PUD that needs this evening. With that one change, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item is minutes from the August 14th meeting.
So move. Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Oh.
Because that's a question to, Nick, you want to go knock on the window and let them know that you have any issues? Okay, this evening, we've got four site plan public hearings. The first being site plan number 23-30, Denny Bozanovsky, Johnny Black's Public House. This is a site plan. As the petitioner or representative to come up and state what they're requesting and the reasons for it.
Good evening. Mike Pizzola, Design House Architecture, with Andrew Miller, Design House Architecture also, representing Denny Miller.
Great. What's your address?
3300 Auburn Road, Auburn Hills, Michigan.
Okay.
Representing Denny with Johnny Black's. Yep. He's proposing to do is simply convert the existing, or the firehouse, what's the firehouse? Yeah, Firehouse Tavern to new restaurant, a new restaurant, Johnny Black's. Proposed an outdoor patio. Sorry?
Facade changes?
Yeah, and some minor facade changes. Patio is going to take up 3 or 4 parking spaces. Yep, there's plenty of parking on site. We did a parking study. Plan on maintaining access through the to the restaurant. Facade changes, just some minor trim work, paint the brick, and just some. There was a question about metal siding, just a thin piece of metal siding, metal trim work for a facade, for the facade upgrade. Got some planning comments. We can review those one by one, or just here to answer questions about it.
Okay. To the board, are there any questions? Nick, you reviewed this?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As the applicant said, this is for Johnny Black's Public House. They're taking over the Firehouse Tavern, which was in Shelby for quite a long time, as I understand. This property is zoned C1, that's local retail business, and with that, restaurants are permitted use, and outdoor dining is permitted wherever restaurants are permitted. So the modifications they're doing to the site are adding 2 outdoor dining patios, some facade improvements, and of course an interior remodel for the restaurant. There's really not too much to go off. Our comments are fairly straightforward, and most of them can be addressed just by marking them on the site plan, whether it's benchmarks or right-of-ways. Things I did want to go over is that with our ordinances, if an outdoor dining area is located on a sidewalk, which that eastern outdoor dining area is, you'll have to maintain 5 feet of pedestrian path in there. As it is, there's about 4 feet, so we'll have to adjust that a little bit.
We can correct that right now. We're going to withdraw that patio. We're going to have the east patio. We feel that's a little better tucked in. He doesn't need to. One's plenty.
Excellent, and you can address that in the site plan then.
Exactly.
The other one that may affect the layout of the site, the building department wants you to verify the toilet room capacity for the increased occupant load. Make sure the bathrooms are adequate to add more people there. And then we'll also want to see the center line measurement for those outdoor patios, showing the distance they are from the center line of the road, make sure there's no encroachments there. Other than that, most of the comments are fairly straightforward and can be addressed with a quick review of the site plan.
Okay, thank you. Back to the board. If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Casali.
I move to approve site plan number 23-30, Denny Bozanovsky for Johnny Black's Public House, located at 49035 Shaner Road, parcel number 23-07-23-476-004, on the northwest corner of 22 Mile Road and Shaner Road, facade modifications and patio additions. The approval is subject to the submission of final site plans addressing all department, engineers, and planning commission comments.
Support.
Moved by Casali, support by Snyder. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Casali.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Opone.
Yes.
Commissioner Larray.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you very much. You'll enjoy it, believe me.
It's good. Next is site plan, it's a re-review on site plan, special land use 23-02, Ray DeBuck. This is the petitioner. Okay, Julie, you want to sort of kick off what because this is a re-review, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, Chairman. Back in February, this applicant was in front of this board, and it was postponed due to the, some Eagle issues on the property. Our township attorneys, or township, not a township attorneys, our township engineers have been engaged in this process and have met with the applicants along with Eagle on this site. And our engineers are confident that this site can proceed forward as long as Eagle is involved with the rest of the administration of this site.
So now you can pay Julie for doing your presentation, right? Anything to add?
No, we pretty much forward everything that we had. We've been working with not just Eagle, but like you said, Service Environmental, that we hired ourselves to kind of help out with the stuff. And from my understanding, we met everything that was pretty much asked for us. So everything that's changed is on the site plan that we discussed at our last meeting. And so,
Yep.
no, nothing else to add.
Great. No,
Chairman?
Yes.
One more thing. There's just a few comments based on the revised site plans that were submitted. So you would just have to correct those minor issues, and then we can go from there.
All right.
For the board, were there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I move to recommend approval to the Township Board for Site Plan Special Land Use 23-02 Raymond DeBuck Recycling Facility located on the north of 22 Mile Road west of Shelby for a recycling facility with outdoor storage. The applicant has met the site plan special land use standards in section 6.5 of the Township zoning ordinance and must address all the Planning Commission, Department, and engineering comments.
Support.
Moved by Turner, support by Opone. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Opone?
Yes.
Commissioner Larray?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item is site plan, special land use number 23-22, Jeff Schmitz, SJ Shelby LLC. This is a public hearing. I'll ask the secretary to read the notice as published.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of a site plan special land use. Applicant Jeff Schmitz, JS Shelby LLC, 155 Romeo, Suite 300, Rochester, Michigan, 48307, Premier Academy Child Care Facility. Location 55748 Van Dyke Avenue, north of 25 Mile Road, east of Van Dyke Avenue. Site plan SLU number 23-22. Sidwell number 23-07-03-301-004. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, August 28th, 2023, at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, Boardroom, 52700 Van Dyke Avenue, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48316, 586-726-7243, for the purpose of holding a special public hearing on the site plan special land use. The application for the site plan special land use may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffett, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published in the Shelby Utica News on August 9th, 2023. There were 28 property owners and 4 applicants were notified by first-class mail on August 8th, 2023.
Thank you. Ms. Denowith, did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it does.
Great, thank you. Could you explain the present zoning and if this special land use request is appropriate?
The present zoning of this property is C1, which is under Section 3.13 of the Shelby Township zoning ordinance. This is an appropriate special land use pursuant to Section 3.13C3, subject to the special land use requirement standards and the sections set forth in Section 4.12.
Great, thank you. Secretary Moore, did we receive any correspondence on this?
No, we
request?
did not,
Great,
Mr.
thank
Chair.
you. Okay, the format for this public hearing and the one that's coming next, and I will repeat myself then again, is the purpose is we make a recommendation to the Township Board. They ultimately make a final decision on what's being requested. The petitioner will come up, state what they're requesting, why they think it's a good use for the property that they have either own or have control of. Commissioners will then ask questions of the petitioner. I'll then open it up to the public, and anyone who wishes to come up and address the board, ask their questions, offer their comments, so we have a better understanding of what issues we should consider when we make that recommendation. Once we receive all those comments, I'll then ask the petitioner to come back up and address whichever comments we deem relevant to us, this body, making a decision. It's not a debate, not an argument. At some point, if it gets disorderly, I'll just gavel it. We'll make the decision based on the information that we received up to that time, okay? We respect everyone that's here, and we expect that everyone else offer the same. So with that, I'll ask the petitioner or representative to come up and offer what it is they're requesting on that site. Anyone that speaks to this body, I need your name and your address. And then after you're done speaking, you can sign in. There should be a sign-in sheet there.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm Jeff Klatt with Krieger Klatt Architects, 2120 East 11 Mile Road in Royal Oak, Michigan. I'm also here with the owner and developer, Jeff Schmitz of JS Capital, and Ms. Angela Naimo, the asset manager for JS Capital. Angela also operated and managed the first Premier Academy location for over 8 years, so she understands the curriculum inside out, and she'll be speaking this evening as well. We have our civil engineer also here to answer any questions you may have regarding the site or any civil-related questions. So we are requesting special land use approval as well as site plan approval this evening. But for those of you, we do have an architectural presentation, which we'll get into here in a minute. But for those of you that are unfamiliar with Premier Academy, they are locally owned, education-based preschool and childcare center. They have four current locations. The first one in Oakland Township, Rochester Hills, Northville, and Macomb. Macomb will be opening. The grand opening is this week, tomorrow actually. We're hoping for the 5th here in Shelby, and then we have another one planned in Troy next year. So like I said, we have a brief presentation.
Why don't you mention where they are too? There's the Adams, looks like an old elementary school at
Adams
Tinkin and
and
Adams,
yes.
right? And the 21 in Card, because typically those are transit patterns that a lot of folks would be familiar with, so, okay.
Perfect, thank you. Like I said, we have a brief presentation. Angela kicked that off by describing Premier Academy and how they operate. But we also like to thank Ms. Razorware for all of her help and guidance and patience throughout the process. So thank you for that. She's been excellent to work with. So with that, I'll pass the baton to Angela, and then I can address the architectural piece.
Hi there, my name's Angela Naimo. I work for JS Capital Group, 155 Romeo Road in Rochester. I wanted to start, just since we are new to this community, giving you a little bit of background and history on our schools or child care facilities. As Jeff said, we are an academic-based program. Originally, our first campus was located in Oakland Township at the corner of Rochester Road and Snell. We opened back in 2009, and as demand grew and waitlist grew, we decided to expand. So as he had mentioned, this would be our 5th facility. So a little bit about us. Kids can start our programs as early as their infant years. So typically a 6-week would be the youngest little one we would take, and we go up to kindergarten. As mentioned, we do have our infant and toddler program, and additionally we offer 2 types of curriculum for our preschool age students. We do a Montessori-based approach, and additionally a traditional preschool curriculum, kind of what a lot are more familiar with. A little bit about our facility. As many of the other child care facilities down Van Dyke, we start our day at 6:30 a.m. We do offer morning care for working parents, and we start to see drop-offs stagger at that point. We have our morning care that runs until about 9 o'clock, and that's when our first morning circle time will meet, and we kind of kick off our school day. Our program runs between 9 and 3. We do have some kids that will get picked up right after lunch that aren't really ready to stay for nap time and all that fun quite yet, and we do have other kids that will leave at 3, and again, the rest that will kind of stagger for working parents up until we close at 6:30. We do have, as our other facilities, most of our kids are roughly 80%, I believe it was, of our students are within a 3-mile radius. So we're seeing the families directly in the community that parents are already passing to and from on their way to and from work. And then Jeff can go through a little bit more about our project location, then I'll circle back later with some more information.
So our site is indicated by the yellow shading right there. So we're on the east side of Van Dyke, just north of 25 Mile Road, sandwiched in between the Christian Financial Credit Union and the Marcus Grill. It's a bit of a blow up here. So the site is about 1.73 acres. As was mentioned, we're zone C1. Childcare use is allowed, but it's a special land use is required for the approval. Our neighbors are C1 to the north and south, and then R1B, single family, to the rear. There's some existing conditions. As you can see, it's in quite good shape. Actually in quite poor shape. I mean, the building's it's just rough. You can see the exposed block that faces the road here, Van Dyke Road here. It's actually, it's kind of wavering in the breeze. We had our structural engineer on site just to assess the conditions. And generally speaking, we're gonna be taking most of the building down except for the steel shell. And even that'll require modification and bracing to do that. So it'll be a brand new building essentially with the foundations, and the shell will remain intact though. So we'll kind of follow the footprint and perimeter of the building, but it'll be generally new. Some more of the existing conditions. You can see this frame in the back that'll be coming down. There was an addition at one point that was constructed quite shoddily though. You can see there's damage behind the existing panels. So it's just in rough shape. Some of the interior shots. So hopefully the renderings will convey what we're trying to do here. This is our proposed site plan. The L shape, that's our building. So the number 1 right there. The lighter shade of gray, that is existing footprint. That's about 10,800 square feet. And then we're proposing about 5,300 square feet of additions. One's in the upper left-hand corner, and the other's in the lower right-hand corner. So the overall building's about 16,000 square feet, give or take. The circulation is quite simple around the site. We are closing off one of the entries on Van Dyke to avoid confusion. So number 2 will be the entry point, the northernmost. And then we have really a parking field to the side, to the rear, then in front of the building. The one in front is existing to remain. We're not really altering the front face of the building except for new skin, and that parking will remain the same too. There is an outdoor play area that meets ordinance requirements, which is about 5,000 square feet. That's where number 5 is. And then we have our detention field in the back of the building, number 4. From a parking standpoint, and we'll address this, we will require a few variances here for this project. We have 52 proposed parking spaces and 79 are required, but as we'll show later, 52 is more than adequate for what we're doing here. It's our landscape plan. So it's, as you can see here, we'll have a mix of evergreen and canopy trees throughout the site. To the rear of the property where we have our single family neighbor, there'll be a dense row of evergreen to help shield that. We are requesting some relief from you at the front of the building. We do not propose a screen wall, a 24-inch high screen wall. In lieu, we'd like to erect a landscape berm, not a berm, but a landscape hedgerow. We found those are problematic, those knee walls at points. Either they get hit by cars backing into them, or snow plows cause a lot of damage too. So we propose an evergreen screen there. So that does require some relief from you. But it'll be a beautiful site as their other facilities can attest. So I mentioned variances. We will require 3 as this building is designed. Dimensional variance of 5.2 feet from the front west parking lot, which encroaches into the required 70-foot front yard parking spaces. And if we go back here, that's really what I was mentioning earlier, that parking in the front of the building. It's really an existing condition. The front building line is there. We really can't move that. So that building remained. That's why we're requesting a variance for that parking, because of the way that parking is currently situated. And we really need to maintain that to meet our parking counts. The second one is a dimensional variance of 4 feet from the south side of the proposed building addition, which encroaches into 20-foot side yard setback. So if I jump back here, this is really on the south end of the building. You can see there's a line here at the bottom of the screen to the south property line. There's a 20-foot setback there, but as evident here, the existing building is non-conforming. It was built into that setback. So all we're trying to do is really build the new addition in line with that. And we really have to almost be a trade-off of variances because we're required to have 5,000 square feet of outdoor play area. So if we're forced to push that building in, it'll impact our play area. So it's really a trade-off. We understand that the building will require some fire ratings due to the proximity to the lot line, and we'll plan to take care of that. But it's really a minor encroachment into that setback. Then the third is a variance of 27 parking spaces. As I mentioned before, 79 are required and 52 are provided. And I'll let Angela address that. They have a lot of data based on their locations that prove that the 52 parking spaces is more than adequate for this facility. Floor plan's pretty simple in concept. The light blue shading represents the new additions. The front entry of the lobby area will be in the upper left-hand corner. All the classrooms flank the perimeter per the building code or per the LARA code, State of Michigan code. They have to exit outside. So all the classrooms exit to the exterior. And exterior materials. So this building here, somebody mentioned the Adams and Tinkin project was a little bit more traditional in nature. This one's a little bit more modern. Per se, you can see the L shape of the building. We have the new addition there, so it'll be a glass addition to the building, which should be beautiful. But all the materials will be timeless. We are proposing brick around the facade with some aluminum trim, and we have those samples here. We can show you as well too. I can bring those up or share them with you. But high quality materials, and that's what they do in all their projects. They're always high end and high quality materials. So brick, a lot of glass here for visibility into the site, and a bit more of a modern appearance. More views around. That's the front entry piece, that gable right there. That'll be the entry. It's pretty equidistant to the parking areas. Nice landscape feature up front. This is a view of the outdoor play area to the back of the building, roughly 5,000 square feet. These are existing photos from their other facilities that show, again, just the high quality nature of the development. It's warm, it's bright, it's inviting, almost like the children's homes. Other views of the interior. That's the new gym we'll be constructing. Again, playful, fun. Okay, and I'll pass it back to Angela. Thank you.
So the next few slides are just highlighting, like I had mentioned before, that radius that we're seeing and where our families are coming from. This is our Rochester Hills campus at the corner of Tinkin and Adams at the dot, and just a little bit of a brief summary of how many families we have enrolled and where they're located. So as you can see, within 1 mile, that's quite a populated area at that corner. We've got 80 of our families, 3 mile, 39, and within 5 miles, we have 32 families coming from that. Again, with our Oakland campus, many neighborhoods, just as you have here in Shelby, but 1 mile, 63 families, 3 miles, 55, and 5 miles, 45 families. And our Northville campus is at 7 Mile in Haggerty, and that is 46 families within 1 mile, 39 within 3 miles, and 19 within 5. This is just a typical 12-hour traffic chart just to kind of display. I know a lot of people hear school or childcare and they think, oh my gosh, the high school line of cars backed up. As you know, as the other childcare facilities down Van Dyke, that's not a problem with our staggered drop-off and pickup since we are childcare and it is kind of within 6:30 to 9:30 main drop-offs, and then again 3-ish until 6:30 upon closure.
Schedule specific times for people to drop off or like
So
within ranges?
the kids will give us their schedule that's desired or needed, and they have the flexibility to come and go. Just, you know, if you're late at work one night, that's not a problem. You're arriving a little bit later to get your kiddo. But you know, it just generally any time within the windows in the morning and in the afternoon to the early evening are sufficient. And this kind of shows when we start off at 6:30, our staff that's coming in, arriving and departing, and then we start to pick up the 7:30-ish time to 8:30 when a lot of people are commuting to work, and that continues. And you'll notice throughout the day, traffic is fairly non-existent. The vast majority of our kids enrolled take a nap, so pretty much non-existent during the lunchtime, early afternoon hours. That's just when staff is taking lunch breaks. And then again, for pickup time, that you'll see that kind of flow of traffic start again. And these are just, we do a traffic study at all of our facilities. As Jeff had mentioned, our Macomb campus's grand opening is tomorrow. So as we build that facility, we'll have that data here to include. But for now, we've gone off our original campus, our Rochester Hills and Northville campuses, showing our capacity and just kind of how many cars we're seeing arriving and departing throughout that time. So very typical, very standard of what you would see at your other local childcare facilities. Here are some shots of our existing campuses. So this is our Rochester Hills campus. Capacity, I'm sorry, going to refer back. Our Rochester Hills campus right now is licensed to hold 210 students, Oakland 215, and Northville is 155. So for Rochester Hills, this is our current site. We have 37 spaces, which is more than adequate for our staff and parent drop-off and pickup. At this facility and our Oakland facility, we have a circle drive, so parents are able to pull up in the circle drive and drop their kiddos off and then proceed with their workday. So 37 spaces for Rochester Hills, which is great. Our Northville campus has 43 spaces. This is our new Macomb campus, but that one has 55 spaces there. And this is our original campus, which is our Oakland campus. We have 73 spaces, and it's wildly overparked. The majority of all of the spaces along the back of the parking lot are never used. And, you know, we hate to see adding more pavement and more spaces to when it's not necessary, and we can use that area for greenery and child play space.
How many kids are you looking to certify this for?
I can't recall exactly from site plan. It goes on square footage, but I believe it was right around 185. So that's kind of right in the range, a little smaller than some, but bigger than our Northville.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone has any questions? We are happy to answer.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
You're going to build it and operate it?
Correct.
You don't franchise any, you don't sell these, no plan to sell them?
No, they're owned all individually by.
Is there a fence around the retention area?
There is, yeah, sorry. Yeah, there is a fence around the retention area. We can pull that back up. The site plan should show it.
Yeah, it looked, you know.
We'll adhere to all the engineering regulations and building department regulations, but there is a fence there. Just verify. I'll jump back to this slide.
So without a drop-off area, I mean, will you require the parents to park to drop the kid off, or can you do that? Because
yes,
you know, it's the close proximity to Van Dyke. If they start,
they would be.
A whole lot the stacking. And
No, there's no stacking spaces here. We've got the spaces along Van Dyke, and then we've got the front spaces on the other side of the site that we would keep available. Staff would be parking in the rear.
In the rear, okay.
Yeah.
Questions? Mr. Turner.
I was out there today, and I can tell you, I don't know when your pictures were taken, but the building looks significantly worse today than it did in the pictures. When I look at the site plan, the drawings you have, the dimensions, it does not, to me, look like a child care center. It looks like an upscale, you know, professional business. I think this is going to be a great addition to the township and something that will also enhance the surrounding neighborhoods as well. So I think this is a great plan. Thank you.
Chairman, my question relates to the parking, back to the parking. You do have holiday events, you do bring parents in for shows, so if you only got 52 spaces, you get 180.
So the majority, or at least half of our facility, are infants and toddlers, so they're a little too young to do the fun Christmas shows and things of that nature. We do typically have a holiday program where they sing. Those are off-site at a, there's a facility by our Oakland Rochester that we use and will use also for here within 10 minutes. We rent out their space for our preschool and up. And then just as this past week, we had a meet the teacher. And those are staggered throughout the week just to reduce congestion within the facility and give the kids a less overwhelming kind of opportunity to come in and see the school.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Don't go too far, maybe. This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission, you guys can sit down. Planning Commission will hold on the special land use request. All remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. Like I mentioned prior, we are a recommending body. We will take into consideration the issues raised this evening, make a recommendation to the board, and ultimately, they will vote to approve or not this request. At this time, anyone is willing to, who wishes can come up, offer any questions, or offer a comment. Once, going twice. Back to the board. To the planner for comments.
Thank you, Chairman. So as Mr. Klatt identified, section 6.5, section 4.12, and then 4.4 applies to this facility. They have identified all the special land use standards and provided comments to that based on location, size, and character, that it's conforming to the C1 zoning district. They meet all the applicable zoning ordinances. Comments, the site plan review comments, we have done a preliminary review. They've addressed all those site plan review comments on the plans. The 3 variances are going to be heard at the September 7th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. And the only concern that I had was the parking, and based on the explanation, I'm comfortable with the parking that they're providing at this time.
Okay. So your recommendation would be for the Zoning Board of Appeals to also approve?
Correct, for the front yard setback variances, also for the side yard setback variance and the parking.
Comfortable that we make that part of our motion this evening?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Recommendation this evening must be based on the following standards: compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistent with and promote the intent and purpose of the special land use, compatibility with the natural environment, consistent with the capacities of public services and facilities affected by the proposed use, protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and the adequacy of public access to this site. We may recommend approval, or we may disapprove the request, or we could table it to evaluate it further. But at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Moore.
I move to recommend approval to the Township Board for Site Plan SLU number 23-22, Jeff Schmitz, J.S. Shelby LLC, 55748 Van Dyke Avenue, parcel number 23-07-03-301-004, located north of 25 Mile Road on the east side of Van Dyke Avenue for Premier Academy Early Childhood Education Facility. The applicant has met the standards in the zoning ordinance, including section 6.5, special land use standards, and must comply with all the Planning Commission, Department, and engineering comments listed in this review. The basis for the motion is as this. Number 1, this use will not result in nuisances for any abutting uses due to the nature of the use and its limited hours of operation. Number 2, adequate access is provided on the site. Number 3, the proposed use is less intense than most other permitted retail or service uses that may be permitted in the C1 district. Number 4, the proposed use offers a service for the public convenience at the proposed location. And number 5, the Planning Commission recommends approval for the required variances.
Is there support?
Support.
Ms. LeRae? Moved by Commissioner Moore, support by Commissioner LeRae. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner LeRae?
Yes.
Commissioner Pone?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Very nice job. We look forward to having you in the community. Thanks. Next item is site plan number 21-20, Antoinette DiLorenzo for Stony Brook Drive Development. This is a public hearing. I'll ask the Commissioner Moore to read the.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of the following special land use. Applicant, Antoinette DiLorenzo, Stony Brook Drive Development, LLC, 45343 Market Street, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48315. Proposed use, detached site condominiums, 50 units. Location, vacant parcel number 23-07-36-200-031, south of 21 Mile Road, west of Hayes Road. Site plan number 21-20, Sidwell number 23-07-36-200-031. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, August 28, 2023, at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, 52700 Van Dyke Avenue, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48316, 586-726-726-7243, for the purposes of holding a public hearing on the proposed detached site condominiums. The application for the detached site condominiums and the site plan may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address, planning@shelbytownship.org, prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffett Chair, Raquel Moore Secretary. This was published in the Shelby Utica News on August 9th, 2023. There were 551 property owners, and 2 applicants were notified by first-class mail on August 8th, 2023.
Thank you. Ms. Denowith, did the notice meet all legal, published meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it does.
Great. And can you, like we did previously, explain the uses under the present zoning and if the special land use request is appropriate?
Mr. Chair, this property is zoned R7, which is subject to Section 3.9 of the zoning ordinance. This is an appropriate special land use pursuant to the special land use specifications and subject to Section 4.15.
Thank you. So the process will be very similar to what we just experienced, although I imagine there'll be a couple of more questions from the audience. Petitioner or representative will come up and state what they're requesting, their reason for it. Commissioners will then ask questions, the board, the planning commission. I'll then open it up to the public, and anyone is welcome to come and offer their comment or offer a question. I'll make note of these questions, and then we'll call the petitioner back up to address the appropriate questions. We did receive a request or an email from Dave and Karen Nicholas with about 12 questions. As a courtesy, I'll read through those, or ones that aren't addressed otherwise when appropriate. So with that, when you're ready, name and address, please.
Meanwhile, we get that. My name is Joseph Veglica from Gateway Engineering, and I'll be representing Antoinette DeLorenzo on Emerald Creek number 4. To make things a little easier, we prepared a little PowerPoint that showcases how this property evolved and what we're proposing tonight. So how do we get that? So again, thank you for listening to our presentation. And this is something that we've been working for approximately the last 2 years. So as you already stated, this is an R7 zoning. It's 41 acres approximately. It includes 3 existing ponds, and then there's property on both sides of the consolidated drain, which cuts the property in half. So the property is located on Hayes, on the south side of Hayes Road, on the east side of Hayes, south of 21 Mile. And when we took on this project, many different concepts were brought up to the township. We started out with something similar to what the property to the north did, Lombardo, which was like an apartment complex. It fits the zoning, so we We went ahead and worked on that concept. But we looked at the history of the property, so we decided to minimize the density and to present something that's more like single-family residential. So as you can see, I don't know, on our PowerPoint, we have a rendering of what it would look like. These are nice single residential housing. So we're proposing 40-foot lots, 6-foot setbacks on either side, 12 feet between dwellings, 35 feet rear setback, and 25 feet front setback. The property is approximately 41 acres, and if you do the R7 zoning, you're able to get 119 lots. We're only proposing 48 lots at this time. So in order for us to go ahead and plan this subdivision, this site condominium, we kind of nestled the site between the existing lakes. Some of the lakes are going to get massaged, and but the density stays the same. And in order to do that, over the last 2 years, we actually went to the drain office and brought them preliminary drawings. We did some geotechnical engineering on the site. So we did quite a bit of extensive work before we got here in front of you. We meet all the landscaping. I believe there's no variances needed on this property as it stands right now. We have extensive landscaping to buffer us between the condominiums to the south, and there's going to be an additional road that's added to the north that goes into the Lombardo site. And we're proposing beautiful single-family residential, and we believe that it would be an improvement to what's there right now, and it would complement all existing zonings in that area, all the condos to the north, the apartments, and so on and so forth. I have here also some floor plans of what we feel this should look like. And like I said, they're nice looking single-family condominiums. And that's basically what we're proposing. And we're here to answer any question that you may have on the property.
Okay, thank you. I'm anticipating two issues that may be of concern, and one is the sort of the condition of that private road and the private road that your proposed development will share.
Sure.
And what kind of maintenance agreement you'll have, or are you offering to sort of help with the current? I mean, it's in disarray. Has been. It's been an issue.
Sure.
Every time this issue comes up, I'm anticipating that's going to come up. And then also sort of maintenance of the pond. Why don't you address a little bit to what? Hang on a second. You can sit down. Until you're called on. Maintaining the pond, the quality of the water of the ponds, and what is the process to be able to that you'll go through to shrink the pond to increase the lots? Are you building on any of that sort of thing, or how is that being engineered?
So let's this is a two-part question.
Yep.
I'll answer the engineering part, and then Mr. DeLorenzo can talk about the condominium, the street, and what you asked at the beginning. So as far as the pond is concerned, so we're massaging this pond to add. There's going to be some road crossings, and there's going to be some lots that are going to be touching where these filled areas are. We already had a geotechnical engineer that pretty much told us how to put it back into place from an engineering standpoint, so it's gonna be all engineered fill. And we're gonna do that. So the issue this township had, they didn't want us to do that while we're building. They wanted us to do that during the development stages. And then a letter will be issued from the geotechnical engineer saying that all site was brought up to engineered fill standards, and standard construction from that point on can go. So the utilities can be installed, the road can be installed, basements.
There's some state agency that offers an approval of that.
Yeah, so basically it would be done by your township engineer and our geotechnical engineer. So it's something that's done, that every time you filled, you have a choice to do it either way, to do it after construction or before construction. We agreed with the township engineer that they want us to address that during the development stages, which we agreed, and we wrote a letter, and we have also a geotechnical report that says this is the way you're gonna have to fill this area, and then once you do that, it becomes like virgin ground. So that answers the engineering portion. Now, the road.
Again, name and address, please.
Seal, we met with a Seal.
Name and
Seal
address.
is your engineer.
Name and address.
Vince DiLorenzo, 978 Knob Creek Drive, Rochester, Michigan.
Thank you.
I met with O'Seal, who is your engineer at AEW, and she picked one of the options, number 3 of the proposed. We had proposed 3 options for the fill area, and she picked one which is the most expensive, by the way, and we're going with that. We've agreed to do that as part of the engineering design. So she's on board with it. She already sent a letter, I think, to your planner saying that she's fine with that. Secondly, we met this afternoon before this meeting with the Phase 2, which is that road you were talking about. We met with their lawyer and with the president of the association and another member of the association. And we came up with the fact that we will, as soon as we start construction, just before we start construction, we'll videotape the road. And if there's any damage to the road during the construction process, we will take care of it. And the attorney for the association is drafting the documents right now. The president, I think, is still here. He can attest to it, that we met with him.
Is there any other questions?
To the board, any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Vaglick, I'm not an engineer and I'm not a geotechnical expert, so I hope you will
Yes.
give me some humble advice
try.
on some of the questions I have. Obviously, when you talk about filling the lakes, as I see it, it raises some concerns, especially given all the rain we've been getting lately. Twice you said the lakes are going to get massaged. What does that mean?
So if you look at the lakes today, there's actually a plan that shows the existing topography. Over the years with, it's been pretty much not maintained, so there's erosion and there's, some overspill of these lakes that, are going over certain areas. There's a ditch that crosses from lake number 3 to lake number 2. Now, that ditch is going to be piped in, and we're going to cover the ditch itself. In the lake number 1, which is the northern lake, it kind of has like a shape that is like a pear shape, and we're making that rounded. Now, all the places that we're actually filling, it's not that we're filling the lakes. We're just recontouring what's there existing, but we're mainly recontouring where the lakes are very shallow. There's only a few instances that the lakes are a little bit deeper. So, for example, in some of these locations where we're putting a basement in, the actual basement depth is deeper than what the elevation of the pond in that area is. Now, by doing that, we're actually taking care of an issue that is ongoing right now, because right now there's a lot of drainage going into the consolidated drain, and it's not monitored. So once we're in, we're going to actually install a storm sewer system and a filtration system, which is by law now, and we're gonna actually fix the issues that are going right now with those lakes. In fact, not too long ago, we had to go and dig a pipe a little deeper because the apartment complex in the north was getting flooded. And the reason that's happening is because nobody's maintaining the lakes, and we need to address it from an engineering standpoint. So the county was actually happy that we're doing this, and we're actually going to be separating some of the flows, so it makes more sense. So anything from the north is going to have its own outlet, and then anything from the south we're going to add an outlet. So we're going to kind of adjust some of the issues that are right now there with the property from the north, because there's a few properties that are going into this lake, and I'm not 100% sure if the township even knew that some of these properties were draining into these lakes, because we weren't able to find any drawings.
I had a question about basements. You answered that. Are all the units going to have basements?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I just got a logistical question. You mentioned you're proposing 48 lots at this time. I'm assuming that means that when you get into engineering, the lot number might drop?
Well, I don't think it will drop. I think we're going to stick to 48. I'm not sure why we would do less than the proposed 48.
Okay. Then let me ask you another question. Let's say I live here, and I have a party for my daughter who graduates from college. Where are all the visitors going to park?
Well, this is just like any other subdivision. So you have street parking, and then you have driveways with two-car garages.
So they're going to park on the street and the driveways?
Just the same as any standard subdivision in the area.
No visitor pads for
No
overflow?
visitor pads, no. It's not that type of site.
Okay, now, sounds like a little more than a massage on the lakes, but I guess we'll get more into that later.
If you would like, I can show you. We may have a plan that kind of shows.
Are you reducing the volume of these ponds?
Amitesh, can you open it up?
Are you going to reduce the volume of the ponds?
No. So we're actually, we're not reducing the volume. We're actually increasing some of the volumes in some of these ponds by raising the grades around it, where these roads go.
The lots that are going to be touching in the fill area, how far into the shallow part of the ponds will they be?
I can actually show you. We have here a plan. I'm not sure if you guys get to see it. Your monitors. So for example, see like a crosshatch, and you can kind of see the magenta crosshatching on the bottom. That's the existing contours of these ponds. So if you look at this area here, this is the contour of the existing. Here, in these lots back here, we're outside of the basement, and then as it goes further, to the south, it's going more into the lot areas. That's what we're doing for second pond here, and it goes pond back down here. Basically, this crossing that we have over here. Like a crossing that over the years, it just created itself. So this water will overflow into this one, and then eventually there's a pipe that goes into the consolidated drain there.
So where are you expanding? Where are you expanding on the pond to increase volume? How are you increasing volumes?
I'm sorry?
How are you maintaining, your?
So there, the banks are raising, so, because of the way that we're regrading this property to match existing property lines. And by doing that, the volume is gonna be substantially similar, if not more.
Raise those
So-
universally throughout the, around the
Well,
entire
around
pond?
those ponds, yes,
Oh,
the
okay.
lots. So I have here, actually, that you can see, if you. We're talking about.
I'm good on questions right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
I do have a question.
Commissioner Moore?
As far as the soil that would be brought in to fill in those ponds?
That would be engineer fill, so most likely, class 2 sand, and, things that are acceptable to the township and to the engineers.
So would that come from, like, locally, or?
Yeah, it will probably come from, there's quite a bit of soil coming in, so it'll probably come from one of the local pits, sand pits that we have in the area.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Snyder?
approximately what the number of yards that you're talking about bringing in? Do you have a number?
I think we did a rough calculation, remember?
You're going to address, come on up to the mic.
I was just asking, because we kind of did a rough calculation. I just don't remember that number, and I don't want to mislead you.
Speak into the mic.
Has that number. She is.
AEW, yeah. Mhm.
So she needed to have that. So, but if you notice, it's not really a lot. The lake is the same, it's just a little bit on the one side, on the eastern lake. The western lakes don't get much, and the little bit, if you want to see it, we can. Beaches, so it's not that deep.
We calculated it, I'm sorry, but I don't have that value, and I don't want to mislead you. But
Now, how, you said you're going to raise up the lot. How high up will you?
well, once whatever we excavate out, we're going to leave it, we're going to berm around, and we're going to increase a little bit the heights.
48 lots that will be excavated with basements, so that dirt's gonna go somewhere.
All right.
That's what we're gonna use.
Yeah, okay, all right. Any other questions?
My question about parking, how many parking behind the building?
No, parking is these are, they're in the driveways and then on the streets, standard parking.
Okay, question to the planner, are these streets wide enough to accommodate street parking?
They are not. Matter of fact, there was a comment by the building department that based on the road width of 24 feet, there's no parking on either side of the road. So there's going to be no parking fire lane signs on both sides of the street due to emergency vehicle passing and.
Okay, so that is a very large concern to the buyers eventually. If this goes through, the buyers need to be aware that they have no parking spots on the street. And to my fellow commissioners' point about parties and gatherings, where are guests going to park? And
Existing condos are the same way.
do the existing condos have a parking
Condos
site?
have two-
And if you're going to speak into the microphone.
The existing condos, they park on the driveway. And this will be like the same thing. It will have a
All right, now, you'll have an opportunity to comment, but not now.
the existing condos don't park, if they park, the road width is the same as the existing condos, at 24 feet. We didn't change the road design.
Well, then that's not allowed, and there's probably going to be signs coming up to address that in the future.
So that's a discussion we're having with the building department and the fire department at this point. So as far as going forward with new site plans, there is no parking on the road if it's less than 26 feet.
So I suggest either we reconfigure and widen these streets to allow for street parking, or we find community parking spots for guests, parking lots in your plan.
We can configure them to 26. They're 24 now. We can make them 26. That's not an issue.
To the planner, if they are 26 feet wide, then that does allow for street parking?
We will have to check with the fire department because there's a threshold of, there's no street parking if it's 24 feet on either side. If it's 26 feet, it could be on one side.
Right.
And then if it's greater than 30 feet, you can park on both sides.
Okay.
So we'll take them up another 2 feet.
Thank you.
If that's your pleasure, we will do that.
Okay, any other questions? Are you all set?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sit down for a moment. This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this special land use request. All remarks will be entered in the record for Township Board evaluation. As I had mentioned prior, we are a recommending body, so after this evening, we'll either recommend to the Township Board approval or disapprove, or to table it if there's additional information we need before making a decision. And then we'll forward it on to the Township Board, who ultimately will make the final vote on this request. At this time, anyone is free to come up and offer comment or ask any questions. Like I said, it's not a debate. I'll take the questions, and then we'll have the petitioner come back and answer. In the back.
My name is Gwen Warden, and I live on Stony Brook at 14870 Stony Brook. There was, first of all, to correct it, they're not lakes, they're ponds. And when I moved there, everybody called it a retention pond, and it's not a retention pond, it's a detention pond. So someone has to actually drain when it gets too deep, go through the Shelby consolidated drain, then through it ends up in this Lake St. Clair in the end low. One time it did get too high, and it was very difficult to get them to turn it. Second thing is, they say they've treated it. To my knowledge, in 10 years that I lived there, they've never treated it. They've never even cut the grass. In fact, I knew they were going to have a meeting soon because they cut the grass on the east side. We've always cut the grass on the west side of that pond. I should correct myself now. On the west side of the pond, we've always cut it. They've never paid us for it. For the first about 7 years that I lived there, I don't know what happened before that, we actually treated the pond and paid for it. And then all of a sudden it came up that we may be sued for treating something that we don't own. So they stopped a few years, and now they started up again last year, and it was brought to their attention that 2 children from the apartments were swimming in there, and there was a third on the bank. It wasn't safe, and then I suggested then that they put more signs up and stop treating the pond because we could be held liable if a child drowns in there. And so they did not treat it, to my knowledge, this year. There's never been a sign up, so I don't think it's been treated. If they're going to add 48 homes, why are we making a pond smaller? The runoff would be from the streets, the sprinkler systems, the sidewalks would be a lot more, and being that it is a detention pond, somebody has to make sure that that gets drained when it gets too high. I know there was some questions to an earlier meeting that he would give us the property, or the Di Lorenzo family. I'm not sure who actually owns it anymore, because I hear Vince Di Lorenzo and I hear his daughter, and then I also hear another young lady's name too. I looked it up a couple years ago, and Vince Di Lorenzo was not on that, but he could be now, because I have not checked it. I don't know. He has been very negligent in what he did. There was always a lot of work that had to be refixed. Right now, I'm 27 feet behind their property. I'll refer to it Di Lorenzo property. We are 27 feet. If you start digging in there, my basement walls are going to crack. And I'm not even qualified to answer that. I just know for a fact that they will crack. He's never repaired anything that has happened. He's never paid for any trucks that came down the streets and stuff. He never put any money for cement work in there. And now he wants to put more work in there. I can't see him doing anything unless he puts $10 million down to pay for damages, because he's not responsible. Di Lorenzo family is not, they never did pay for anything. In fact, he owned the property, lost it, and then somehow it got back in his hands again. And I did the research on that. In addition to that, he's just never done anything. He just keeps going on and on and on with new ideas, and he really shouldn't be put. There are people that live there now that pay $25,000 more to live on a golf course. They're losing that much money by putting homes in there because they're not living on a golf course like what was promised. It's to my knowledge from hearsay, I don't know the facts on this, that he was supposed to put a swimming pool in, he was supposed to put a rec room in, he walked out, left the property, didn't finish it. And then there's right now we have several condos. Let me get you the exact number. Well, we have about 92 on our side, and the phase 2, I believe, has 24 plus probably 12 more, I think. And then if you open the road to the apartments, who knows how many cars and then we have 16 homes in the back that how they ended up not being condos, I don't know, because I moved in there in 13 and this all happened in 13. How they're not condos, like ours, I don't really know how that happened, but they should have been. In addition to that, we have 500 cars going through our entrance and exits. Right now, if there's a problem on Hall Road or a problem on 22 Mile Road, we get their traffic. It is extremely hard to get in and out of. Now I hear that there's going to be a road in between the apartments and our condos, which could bring more cars over because they're closer to the light. They have a more difficult time getting out on 21. They'll be coming on our side. We only have one entrance for all these cars to go in and out. That's it. And right now, our board put on no parking on one side of the street because they are so narrow, because I heard that a fire truck tried to get through and could not get through and actually ripped off the mirrors of a car to get through for his emergency. I really worry about what he does because I can't trust him. I've also researched and found out that he's banned in a couple cities in Michigan.
We're not debating.
I heard that when I talked to people in those two cities. That I heard that. I don't have any documentation for that. In addition to that, I'm sure there's a lot of other things people will have to say because.
Yeah, how about let's try to keep it to the development, okay?
Okay.
And not make it personal attacks on someone. Okay.
Oh, well, I didn't mean it to be personal. It was very personal to us when things happened.
I understand, and frankly, I think this board we understand the history of, and I think, and respect the history, but we also have to deal with the project as it's presented too.
Yeah, and what was mentioned today then was that they treat the pond. To my knowledge, they have never done anything with the pond.
I got that note.
So I'm going to leave it up to other people to bring up the rest of the things we need to talk about. Thank you. Sign in.
My name is Yazdi Karas, 14872 Big Lake Drive, So I have a whole bunch of concerns. This is, I think, the third time or maybe the fourth time that we've come over here to talk about this development. And as of now, I don't know about other people, but I don't clearly understand this layout. So I have this map over here. There are ponds like that. The gentleman tried to show where the current pond is and where it's going to be massaged or moved, but it wasn't clear to me, so I don't really understand how much it's going to shrink. The other thing is, again, I don't understand the topology of where this thing is flowing. So where is 21 Mile Road on this map? Where is Hayes Road on this map? So maybe we can understand it better.
21 would be on the left side of that map.
21 and Hayes is over there, that side, on the top? Okay. And then I had my big concern because I don't really understand where they are building the extra road. So is it going to go through the older condos or
The new apartments to the north.
the new apartment? Okay. And my biggest concern is, again, with the traffic, like currently, even though people are working from home, when I leave in the morning, I have to sometimes stand there for like 5 minutes before I can go in or come out. And if you add 48 more homes, that's like assume 100 more vehicles, you're going to increase the traffic a whole lot. So I have a whole bunch of those concerns.
Okay.
Do I need to sign in?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim?
My name is Karen Nicholas. I live at 46707 Emerald Creek Drive. I just have a couple questions. I still don't quite understand what's happening with the ponds. Are they going to need to be drained in order to do the modifications? That's one thing I have a question for. And the second thing is, how long is this whole construction project proposed to take before it's completed?
Thank you.
Can you please sign in?
Ma'am, can you sign in? Thanks. She hits me if I don't, so thank you.
My name is Joseph Amato. I live at 46854 Emerald Creek Drive. My only concern is that I would recommend that they do a traffic study to find out what the cost would be for the traffic in the condo association out to 21 Mile Road. If we're going to add 48 new condos, and majority of the homes or people living there have 2 cars, so that's going to double that number, adding to what the existing people are in the current Emerald Creek condo associations. I think a vital concern would be the traffic study, especially on 21 Mile Road, because just closer to where the community center is, the senior center, and the Lombardo apartments, when you're going west on 21, it goes from 2 lanes real quickly into 1 lane, and there's been several very bad accidents right there. So definitely a traffic study to see if it would fit in with the plan. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lori Fanfalone Gladys at 14928 Stony Brook Drive, and I have a lot of concerns, but 2 of them, for a road to go into the apartments, I purchased in a private community. I do not want all the people from those apartments to have access to our roads. Our roads go into a private community, and that has just countered what I purchased. I purchased a private condo community. And my second concern is the ponds. I believe the architect said many times, these ponds haven't been maintained. I think that says it in itself. The ponds haven't been maintained, and whose responsibility is it? And we're going to have more problems by building more units in here. Thank you.
Bruce Apple, 14885 Stony Brook Drive. I have several concerns, but the biggest concern that I have is that the presentation that we've seen tonight is like looking through a pinhole. You can't see the impact on the entire neighborhood. Okay? He's showing these wonderful things he's going to put in there, but the Phase 1 condos, they also paid a premium of $20,000 to $30,000 to be on the pond front. Now he's going to be taking away that feature of their houses without compensating them. I don't think that's fair. When he talks about making the ponds deeper, is he going to go deeper down, or is he going to build up the berms like he talked? Because when you build the berms up, now you're going to have water problems in all the existing homes. So traffic is going to be what it is, yeah. So also, I've been living in Phase 1 for 20 years, okay? And when we moved in, that was new construction. There were buildings that had been there for at least 20 years before we moved in. So we're looking at probably a 30-year build time. And if he doesn't fix the roads during those 30 years, when you've got all the cement trucks and construction traffic, people are just going to have to live with it. And then he's going to all of a sudden skip town like he did with us, and we'll find out that the roads are only paved 4 inches deep, and they're breaking up all over the place. We put in over $1 million in road repairs. We sure as heck don't want to see construction traffic going up and down that street. Thank you.
Else?
My name is Ron Cummings. I live at 14947 Stony Brook Drive. I've lived there for 22 years, and I don't like what's happening here. The drawings up on the wall don't give me a full insight into what's actually happening. I think it looks like he's putting a road around the periphery of the pond and then adding more units between the pond and our units. And I'd like to see a breakdown on that on a large scale drawing so I can understand what's happening with this situation. And like Mr. Apple said, we have spent $1 million in removing and rebuilding our roads because the roads were put in by Mr. DiLorenzo directly on top of the clay, and they were only 4 inches thick. So what we had to do was take out the concrete, dig down another 8 to 10 inches, put in stone, and put 8 inches of concrete on top for our road surface. I don't want this situation to happen. And I want to see more information so we can get a breakdown on what's happening. I was on the board for 18 years at Condo 1. And I know exactly what we had to do to put this condo complex into the proper condition that it is right now. We had problems with our buildings. We'd take off siding that was rotten, and there was no framing behind it. I don't know where the inspector was when they put these buildings up. And I know that we've been putting money into the roads all the way up till this year. And maybe we're not done yet, but we've got them in pretty doggone good shape, and I don't want to see this project go forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sir, could you sign in, please? Sir, sign in, please. I think there's somebody over here. Yep.
My name is Dave Stentz from 14918 Stony Brook. I'm on the board. And the president of the board and I had the privilege of talking to planning last week. And she had a wonderful drawing that showed the difference between the existing pond and the outline of where the pond would be. She had that highlighted in yellow. I suggest you all look at it.
Yeah,
it's more than just a few feet.
Yeah, that was the plan that he had brought up to share, so,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Back here.
Hi, Michelle Moore, 14884 Stony Brook Drive. I'm hoping you ditch this project too. I look at this drawing and think, why don't we live in Detroit? I did not move in that condo community, have a beautiful setting to have it look like that. Thank you.
My name is Karen Jankowski. I live at 14937 Stony Brook Drive. My question is, Mr. DiLorenzo stated that they were going to videotape the roads. Okay, he talked with the president of Phase 1. We own the entrance. Phase 2. We own the entrance to Phase 1. We own the entrance. Phase 1 owns it. He said nothing about videotaping the entrance, and we've repaired that entrance a number of times. And I want to make sure that there's going to be money put aside if this goes through to pay for that. We need money in escrow. We don't need a bond. We need money put up in escrow, because if he goes bankrupt, we get nothing. Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Creel Jones. I live at 14968 Stony Brook Drive. My concern definitely is the parking. When we first purchased in the subdivision, we were able to park two sides, but due to the new zoning, we are only able to park on one side of the street. It is very difficult to have visitors and guests there. Most of the driveways only accommodate 2 cars. It is a concern of mine. It is a concern of mine that as they talked about whether it's a lake or a pond, I don't think they know what they're giving us. Either you're giving us a lake or do we have a pond? And both have been referenced in the conversation here. I am not in agreement with the build of the 48 homes.
Thank you.
My name is Gail Himes, 14874 Stony Brook Drive. I purchased my condo 32 years ago. It was on the promise of a golf course and a pond that were not supposed to be removed, and I was supposed to be able to enjoy that. I am in disagreement with you putting 25 houses behind me that I get to stare at the back of, that I paid to live on a lake or a pond and enjoy this scenery. I fully thought a golf course, a pool house, and all of the above mentioned things were going to happen, which did not. I am in objection to these condos. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Greg Gadwa, and I live at 14875 Stony Brook Drive. And I'm just curious, no one's mentioned whether Stony Brook Drive is going to get used as an entrance to these site condos. And if it is, it's a quarter of a mile back to my house or my condo. 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. And I'll guarantee you, if there's someone way back behind me, those people, some of the people in the site condos that are behind us right now, don't pay attention to the speed limit. And there are some kids in this subdivision. So it really concerns me that if if it's gonna be, not trying to be self-serving here, but if it's gonna go through Stony Brook Drive, and there's cars parked on one side of the street, partly on the sidewalk, so that you can maybe get two cars by. If there's an entrance to that 50 site condos back there, that's 50 families that are gonna be driving either one side or the other, and it's actually gonna be dangerous, because I don't think, and the second thing is that, and I may be wrong, but a couple of years ago, I know we were having trouble getting any money from the people at the end that share our road, and we weren't getting any payments from them for maintenance of the road. Thank you.
Ma'am, you
Have a follow-up.
no, sir, you only get one shot, that one question.
Can I follow up on a comment?
No.
My name is Judy Macklem, and I live at 14901 Stony Brook Drive. My biggest concern is when you pull in our entrance, the mailboxes are right there, and I pull over as close as I can to them. I put my blinker on, and I almost get killed, even in our area, just getting out of my car to go to the mailbox. So, and all these other hot rodders are going past us. And also, when I moved in 8 years ago, you could park on both sides of the street. Now it's one. And I understand, because I saw that fire truck not almost being able to get to somebody's house. And we have someone on our street that needs the fire department a lot. And they can still hardly get by when these guys have their trucks. And then what they do, they park these big pickup trucks on the sidewalk right there. And I mean, I laugh because I'm right by a sign that says, "We love our children," 15 miles an hour, as they're going 45 miles an hour up and down our road. So it's a scary thing for me, because of the fact that I might be a little younger than some, older than others, and I try to protect myself, and it's really dangerous. And then also, ever since they built the senior center across the way there, I can't tell you how many accidents there are right there. And if you look every weekend, when I pull out of my sub, those cans that are all out there, if you drive down the road, they have all these now. That's the smartest thing anybody ever did from the city, is put all those. But I can't tell you, there might be 8, 10 all knocked over now. And there's one house that's right next to the one you bought, next to the senior center. There's a ditch there that goes down. That, I swear, I can't tell you how many people that have gotten hurt there. I really think if any money from our city goes any place, they should fill that in, because I think it'd save lives there and accidents. So sorry I went on too long.
It's quite all right. Thank you. Yep.
I'm Judy McCormick, 46761 Emerald Creek Drive. I just have a question. When they built the apartments, they added a lane for people to go out into a turn lane. They built a turn lane for those folks making the left-hand turn in, because there's a large number of apartments there. Who do you talk to about getting that culvert the lady was just referring to filled in, so that that turn lane can be continued for us going in? Because that's quite a few taxpayers you have in our community.
So the Department of Roads for the county. Yeah,
they've had
actually,
barrels sitting there,
yeah.
and nothing is happening. And that culvert is so deep that one night I saw a pickup truck in it, and all I could see was the top of the pickup truck. That's how deep it is. So it's very concerning, making a turn into our subdivision, and I've been there a long time. Also, I just happened to have the site map that was in place when I moved in, for anyone in.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Sherry Couric. I live at 14946 Stony Brook Drive. And I was just wondering, you folks said that you have the new map that was proposed. I wonder if they would put it on the screen with the highlighting that one of our board members talked about. Because I don't, like them, I'm not really sure where the line is drawn. And I know you said that he gave you a copy of what the new proposal is. Is there any way we could get that put up on the screen so that we can see what the yellow line is all about?
About what portion of the pond they're going to fill? I don't believe they have that in electronic version.
Okay, well, I'd like to see it. So if they could get us all a copy, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, here we go.
Put it on the easel and take it.
I'd like to add one thing to my statement. Just recently, we received an assessment for $1,000. And if I'm correct, it was just for 4 slabs of cement on Emerald Creek Drive. It cost that much money from just my household. And that's brand new, and there's more needs to be done. So that is very concerning to me on a fixed income. How do we keep paying this amount of money and more as it goes up? Also, can they save the dirt that they dig from the basements to use as fill for
They're going to use it to sort of to bring up the elevations like around the pond.
They can save that dirt
That's what
from
they
the
said.
basements?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, I want to bring it back to the board, to the planner.
Okay, so I just want to kind of go over the process for this development. These plans were submitted to us back in 2021, and we've held onto these plans and had the applicant consult our engineering firm, and we did not proceed with this development until we were sure that this plan that they presented was even feasible. As Mr. DiLorenzo also noted, that they've been also talking to the Macomb County Drain Commission. Now, this is a 2-step process. It's a preliminary and a final. Typically, when we do a preliminary plan, we just look at the layout of the plan. We don't go into as much detail as we have on this plan for a preliminary review. The details are worked out during the engineering phase. However, being that this site, there's a lot of infrastructure that is going in, we wanted to be sure that if we did proceed with the plan, that it was even feasible. So Mr. DiLorenzo and his team have been working with our engineers, and thus far, they are satisfied with the information that they've received from the third-party agency in regarding the fill and everything else that needs to be done on this project to move forward. So with that being said, the final engineering is going to be done at the second portion of this plan. But for now, it's just a preliminary. They're way ahead of the information that's required for this development to move forward. As far as filling in with the pond, again, that's going to be done by the Macomb County Drain Commission and to the standards of our engineers as well. As far as the site plan goes, this development is a single-family home. It's homes in a multiple-family R7 zoning district, so they meet the standards as far as the density goes for this development. There's a number of site plan comments, if you'll notice in your site plan review from the first time around. Again, we've done a couple of site plan reviews on this. So the most recent ones are dated July 24th. There's some minor modifications that need to be done to the site plan to conform to the current recommendation standards. But as far as, like I said, we're concerned, our engineers are comfortable with what they have presented for the applicant to move forward. Now, during the engineering phase, they have to obtain all the engineering approval along with all the Macomb County permits for this to be finalized. And again, it has to go to the Township Board as well from this body.
Okay, thank you. Mr. DiLorenzo or Mr. Velika. part of what we've heard is
Yeah, the ponds,
bad,
blood between the
actions. And I think, over a long period of time, has created a bit of mistrust over, okay, you're going to tell me one thing.
But I like to also clarify that the pond that it's on the west side of the property that is next to the apartment complex, Lombardo, that's not being touched, where the condos are. The one that's east of that, in its entirety, and that's where all the condominiums are located, most of them at least, it's on Stony Brook Drive, that's not being touched. The only thing we're doing there's a ditch between the two ponds, and we're piping it so we can put a road over it. And then the pond in the middle doesn't front any property. That's the one that's going to be used for this site. And that's where we're going to put the road around it. But the ones that, I just wanted to clarify, the ones that are adjacent to the site condo, we're not touching those. We're only touching the one in the middle.
So you're saying that the people that paid a premium.
Well, yeah. So, for example, this pond here is existing, and we're not touching it. The only difference is this pond here has a ditch that connects these two, and we're filling in that ditch and we're piping it. This pond here, which is
so those and I can see 3 units, and there may be more that have direct view.
Yeah, so there's these 3 units.
So no representation was made to those units.
Yeah, so those 3 units are not on the lake itself. There's property between them, and then it gets to the lake is kind of more in the middle. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then this one in the back here, we're only filling this area here. This is the apartments, and these are the condos. So those will still be facing the pond. And one of the most important things, as you heard, is there's issues with these ponds as they are developed today. A lot of different properties have been dumping into the ponds, and some of them don't even have proper documentations that show that there's, they're ultimately going into the ponds. So by us doing this development,
None of those situations were created by your client?
they were not, well, we're talking about properties that are from Hayes Road, which were not developed by De Lorenzo. And by us getting involved in this, obviously, although we only going to use one pond for a development, which is the middle pond, we are obligated to make sure that the problem that right now the apartments have is addressed, and we're actually putting an outlet to that pond, and the pond to the east, we're doing the same.
You're saying the storm sewers.
The storm sewer are going to rectify all the issues that are there, and we're going to make it into a detention pond, and that's something that we worked deeply with the drain office to make sure that there's no other issues created on that site.
Did you speak to the condo association with Phase 1 to offer any kind of agreement on the
road?
The impact on their road?
We did not. We thought that, we spoke of Phase 2, and we met with their lawyer too. And we're drafting an agreement for the road right now, for their road.
For Phase 2, what about Phase 1?
Phase 2. We didn't know that Phase 1 wanted to, but we would be glad to meet with them too. Because Phase 1 was not going to be used, except now they're saying that they own a little bit of it in the front. But we thought it was all Phase 2.
All right, but you'll sit down with Phase 1 too.
We would be glad to. But I want to address this golf course business before we go any further. When we built the golf course, we spent a lot of money on that golf course. We spent almost $1 million on that golf course.
Unless it pertains to somebody was.
Yeah,
was
but
anyone
they're
offered-
making things like we cheated them out of it. It was they that didn't want it.
Right.
We tried to give it to them.
Again,
They said, no, we don't want it.
Why I stopped that, I'm not considering any arguments that aren't relevant to what we have to make, a decision we have to make, so.
I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, traffic,
And then as far as Stony, there was a question about
questions-
Stony Brook.
Brook, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, I had to look it up online to see where that was. There's no impact to our site. We will not be using that, so we can actually put a sign that says no construction traffic, will be permitted.
you're proposing to put mailbox on these individual units?
Yeah, they'll have, well, that's gonna be up to the post office, but yes, that's what we're planning.
I mean, that wasn't the point of traffic and the concern that.
Correct.
That's the question. Yeah, with the road, we talked about phase one. To the board, any final questions?
A question, Chairman, reference to Dutton Drain. The Dutton Drain runs through the southern portion of the complex, and that's what they're gonna tie into, or where the overrun's gonna go. So the Dutton Drain starts at, by 22 Mile, and you go through that whole sector, and as it comes down, it really builds up a lot of water. So the Drain Commission has discussed this addition, because you're going right across the road into another big subdivision.
Yes, that is correct. We have, excuse me, Joe, but I had talked to the engineer prior to this meeting, and all those issues will be addressed at that time.
I just have a concern. There was a woman that came up tonight, Lori, that mentioned about the private, roads. And there's, going into the access point of the apartments. I mean, they're paying for the private road. Is there another way to develop this so that there's another access, egress point to this property?
The only thing I can think about is we can make that, we can put a sign that says no through traffic for the apartments. But from a safety and a fire standard, we needed, and we have an easement. It was part of the development that Mr. Lombardo brought in, that access road needed to be put in. On paper, that access road is existing.
Mr. Turner.
Julie, I know, just to the planner, I know that the engineer has given some preliminary approval that at this point she thinks she's satisfied with what she's seen. And I know the Drain Commission has chimed in that initially they're satisfied with what they've seen, understanding that at the engineering phase things might change. Are we also talking about not just the water issues changing and maybe the density changing, because we've got to talk about the road dimensions, we've got to talk about additional parking areas, and I need clarity on these ponds, because like a lot of the residents, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I see it, but I'm not totally convinced with what I'm seeing. And so I don't know, will all of those issues also be addressed at the final engineering phase?
So as far as the density is concerned in this development project, I believe the very first plan that they did submit was 50 units. After going through some of the preliminary engineering, and they reduced 2 units. So now they're down to 48 units based on the preliminary engineering in drainage, Macomb County Drain Commission meetings that they had. So they've already reduced 2 units based on that. As far as the road configuration, and now at this point, I would recommend that postpone it, because, yes, you're correct, Mr. Turner, because if we end up widening the road now, now you're going to have different setbacks. So I think it would be would be smart to now widen the road and see where we're at once we do that, because
I-
it is a big concern.
I think that we're able to widen it just on the lakeside.
But then
The
you're
road
gonna,
only goes around the lake, so would not impact the,
but
you
then
know,
it
the-
would
the-
impact
I think what you're-
sidewalks.
we would need to see that.
no, yeah, I understand that. And this is something that just came up tonight about the road. I mean,
Right.
we've been,
Well, actually, no, I was out there yesterday driving through there, and I'm thinking, where is everybody going to park? Because I'm going to tell you, I live in a condominium complex, small condominium complex. We have a
is it same
private
issues?
road, and we have visitor pads for people because people like to invite friends over when there's special events. And I'm going to tell you, Mr. Vagel, because I look at this plan, we have Ring Around the Rosie at the lake, but there's no parking for anybody who might come and visit. That's a big concern. I know you may have just heard it tonight. I saw it yesterday when I was out there. It's a big concern. 'Cause
we were under the impression 24 feet, you can park on one side of the road, so,
I understand you've said you could do it.
yes,
I'd be more comfortable seeing what it is you want to do.
absolutely.
So-
Thank you. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Support? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Our motion this evening must be based on the following, our recommendation must be based on the following. Compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistent with and promote the intent and purpose of the special land use. Compatibility with the natural environment, consistent with the capacities of public services and facilities affected by the proposed use. Protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and the adequacy of public access to the site. We may recommend approval. We could disapprove the request, or we could table it to evaluate the information further. Right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Turner.
I'm going to move to postpone site plan 21-20 to give the applicant time to revise the plan to address issues raised this evening, including the road dimensions, parking areas for residents and visitors, clarity on the size of the massaged ponds, and more information on the water volume of the reconfigured ponds.
Support.
It moved by Turner, support by Snyder. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Pone?
Yes.
Commissioner LeRae?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, thank you. And thank you all, the public, for your comments and participation. Next item is under Old Business Enclave. Julie?
You want me to go ahead before?
What?
Okay, thank you.
Go.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. There has been an issue with units 7 through 10 over at the Encore Plan Unit Development. The calculations based on the building department, it exceeds the stories permitted in this use. Typically, 2 stories are permitted, no more than 35 feet. Mind you, all the units 7 through 10 meet the height requirements. Matter of fact, they range from 32 feet to 33 feet on the rear side of the home, from the basement, from the floor level ground up. They range between 32 and 33 feet. So they meet the height requirement. However, they don't meet the story requirement that's in our ordinance. So the applicant is asking that we allow the walkout basements for these units.
So this was a situation where the building department said, cool, you're good, go. They proceeded, dug the basements, got ready to build, and then someone caught that, oh, shoot, we're a couple feet off, or not even, some cases,
Well,
one case 6 inches off, right?
Correct, but
Restored.
however, the elevation plans were not completely consistent with the grade elevations that were shown on those elevation plans as well, so.
All right.
So it was a little bit of both.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Snyder.
move to approve the modifications to units 7 through 10 based on the calculations provided by the building department and approve the minor modification for 3 stories for the units 7 through 10.
Support.
Moved by Snyder, support by Apone. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Pone?
Yes.
Commissioner LeRae?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, Julie, last
All
one.
right. Last but not least, the Ryan Road traffic study. So over the past few years, we've had a lot of interest in Ryan Road from Auburn Road to 23 Mile. We've had a number of developments come in there, and it's always been the issue with, the residential district that's along Ryan Road there on the east side of Ryan Road. So the township hired MKSK along with our engineers to perform a traffic study along this road. And with this traffic study, we identified what we could do there as far as planning is concerned and increase setbacks, landscape along Ryan Road there. There's a number of characteristics, like land characteristics with that area that's very limited in developing that property. So with that being said, we held a public hearing over at the library, and we compiled all of their comments into this study, and the report is attached in your files. And what I'm looking for is a recommendation from this planning commission to move and accept for the township board. Now, what this study does, it gives us the ability to apply for grant funding in the future, and it provides support documentation also for the Macomb County Department of Roads.
Thank you. Any questions? Motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve that the Township Board accept the Ryan Road Corridor Traffic Study as prepared by MKSK and Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick Incorporated, and forward the study to the Macomb County Department of Roads.
Support.
Moved by Casali, supported by Meredith. Any question on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner Meredith? Yes. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapone?
Yes.
Commissioner LeRae?
Yes.
Chair, yes. Or motion?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.